So let's bring in Fox & Friends weekend co-host Pete Hegseth. He is a graduate of Harvard, and Dave Rubin, host of the Rubin Report. Good to have both of you with us. Pete, several years ago, you returned your Harvard degree, and you did it live on Fox on your show on the weekend. When you listen to Fareed Zakaria here, do you think that we might be at a tipping point in this whole story?
I hope so. It took students calling for the genocide of their classmates and then presidents not being willing to condemn it to open some people's eyes to. I mean, I like what Fareed Zakaria said. The point is, it didn't start with the best of intentions. Marxists landed at these universities decades ago with a new theory. If you look at what I wrote on that Harvard diploma, I crossed out Harvard and I wrote Critical Theory University. And it was a Marxist theory meant to divide the world into either class or gender or race, ways that could deconstruct Western civilization, Western education, Judeo-Christian values into whatever oppressor-oppressed matrix they prefer in that particular moment. You know, it's hate speech to fat shame one at Harvard. It's hate speech to use the wrong gender pronoun. But it depends on context. If you're talking about the genocide of an entire group, it's because they've lost any semblance of a moral framework other than the politicization of their students. And here's the accountability, Martha. Liz McGill's going to keep her job at the law school at the University of Penn. The faculty are rallying behind Claudia Gay. The students are rallying behind her, even despite that testimony. So
well, they have the right,
it's a revelation,
they have the right to do that.
Lead to a sea change? No.
If they want to rally behind her, they can. I think one of the reasons that, you know, part of their statement is that they don't want Elise Stefanik to win. They don't want it to look like she pushed their president out. You know, obviously there's a lot of egg on their faces at this point. And I wonder if Saturday Night Live is another tipping point moment here, because it appears that with this skit on Saturday night, while simultaneously McGill was resigning, they may have jumped the shark. Watch this, Dave.
Anti-Semitism, yay or nay?
I'm sorry, what?
Yes or no is calling for the genocide of Jews against the code of conduct for Harvard.
Well, it depends on the context.
What? That can't be your answer, you Penn lady. Same question, yes or no?
Well, we are serious about stopping all forms of hatred, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia.
And then the second one, and my tea lady, chance to steal. And keep in mind, if you don't say yes, you're going to make me look good, which is really, really hard to do.
Dave, your thoughts?
I mean, wokeism, on top of all the things that it has destroyed, meaning our cultural and educational institutions and everything else, it's also the death of comedy. That was the reverse of comedy, because good comedy tells you something true and makes you laugh at it so that you start thinking about something. Not only was the impression of Elise Stefanik not good, but there is no other group that they would allow the joking of the genocide of that group to be the brunt of the joke. You know, I'm impressed that Pete got rid of his Harvard degree. Next time I come on Fox, I want them to say never went to Harvard. That would be the most honorable thing. That would be the highest thing someone could say.
That would be revisionist
But Pete's
history.
absolutely right. This matrix of oppression, this Suppression Olympics that these people have decided is more valuable than what you say, what you think, and what you do, is the destruction of meritocracy. It's the destruction of everything good that all of our ancestors who came here, whenever they came here, however they got here, lived in much worse conditions than we live in 2023 for all of our problems. And we're erasing that, and it's deeply dangerous, because what comes after this is way worse. So I would say with the destruction of Harvard and Penn and these elite universities, that's a good step. The destruction of SNL is a good step. But we need all of these corporations to fall under this. And just one other thing, which is that Fareed Zakaria should know that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's irrelevant whether the intentions were good or not. Why is it that a bunch of us, I would include the three of us talking right now, have been railing against identity politics for years, while on places like CNN and in our administration and the Democrat Party have been pushing this on everybody? So welcome to the party, pal.
Well,
as
and
they
the
say.
reason that we have spoken against it is because it undermines merit and excellence. And that's the goal of education. So we live in a society where there is tremendous opportunity for people of all different backgrounds. But one of the things that I read today, Pete, was that, the reluctance to fire President Claudine Gay is also partly because she had only been in the job for 6 months, and she's the first black woman president of Harvard, and they feel like that would look bad. But we have to get past that point. If someone isn't doing their job to the benefit of the institution that they're hired to run, what difference should it make what color or gender they are, Pete?
Well, it shouldn't, but it's everything in the matrix of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is the entire lens through which that university works. There's also reports, credible ones, that Claudia Gay potentially plagiarized portions of her PhD thesis. We'll see what comes out of that as well. But they're defending her because of what she looks like, not because of the competency per se in this instance. And that's unfortunate. You talk about excellence. 80% of Harvard kids get A's. 80%. I'm no expert on bell curves, but they're giving away. As long as you play the game right,
it's incredible.
You're fine. And the one last thing. Talk to a Christian or a conservative or a pro-life speaker. They want to hide behind free speech now, but they've been suppressing views for a long time. And donors and others that are just recognizing it now, where you been? Where you been? For 20 years, this has been the status quo.
Harvard
of
is
higher ed.
the lowest ranking school when it comes to free speech measures because of the people that they've canceled, disallowed from speaking on campus, professors that they have fired. These students are not getting an education because they're not hearing a dynamic back and forth between different ways of thinking and scholarly thought. And that is what we need to get back to if we want to have an educated country. And unfortunately, we have other countries that are outpacing us in an enormous way. So I do think parents are starting to rethink whether or not they want to spend this kind of money to have their kids indoctrinated into one way of thinking. I know a lot of college kids. I have, 3 of them who are either in college or out of college in my house. You talk to a lot of college kids and say, how do you feel about turning in a paper that doesn't line up with exactly what you know the professor wants you to say? And they will tell you to a person that they don't want to do it. They don't want to risk it. It's not worth it. They know what the teacher wants the paper to say, and that is the push to do it. Let's listen to this montage because I think there is. I'm optimistic, and I think there is a sense in this that we're starting to turn a corner. Watch this.
I was shocked by the tone deafness of those comments, and I think they got bad legal advice.
So these are 2 of the colleges who are now on Team Hamas.
As an American, I grow increasingly appalled at the anti-Semitism permeating so much of our country, especially by so many students at our elite universities, which have become left liberal woke hotbeds, fostering intellectual rot.
Dave, it's kind of pathetic to me that the former vice president says, they got some bad legal advice on the way they spoke. If the president of the University of Pennsylvania doesn't know how to go in there on her own and address questions from Congress about this issue, we're in a really weird place.
Well, of course. I mean, first off, most of the liberals who are kind of waking up over the last 2 months since the October 7th attacks, it's like, guys, you really just need a mirror if you're trying to figure out how this all got ushered in. That's number one. But then again, it is nice seeing some people wake up, and the hope is that we can now take them down the road towards truth and maybe eventually voting the right way and realizing that their behavior contributed to some of this. But I would say this, I am not looking forward to or calling for these schools to be fixed. Let these schools go down at this point. My executive producer sitting 4 feet away from me right now is a college dropout. I just hired a new producer this week who is a college dropout. There are an awful lot of ways. Martha, I have no doubt you have interns over there. You could gladly get an intern that maybe isn't at school, but wants to learn a trade, wants to learn about TV industry and everything else. We don't need these overinflated, extremely expensive universities to break kids' brains, and you send them out in the world and they don't know what genitals are attached to them, or if the guys that are the good guys or bad guys are the ones doing the beheading. So I say, let them have Harvard. We'll deal with people in the real world.
Bravo. I hear you. Before I say goodbye to you guys, I just want to remind everybody that when Pete, when he sent back his diploma, he pointed out quite well that the logo of Harvard University that you see people driving around with that proud sticker on the back of their cars has 3 books on it. Those books from the founding of Harvard are the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the book of the Second Coming, if I'm correct about that, Pete. I got to go.
Correct.
But
You're exactly right.
I would just encourage people to look at the logo on Harvard
on.
and think about how far that school has come from what was its founders intentioned. Thank you both, Pete Hegseth, who didn't go to Harvard, and Dave Rubin.
Yep.
Good to have both of you
Who
with us.
really didn't go to Harvard.
Thank you very much. Good to see you guys.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.